Hi everyone, it's Razyel Kayne. I'm back with another voice actor interview, and today some very unique voice, some very unique talent who's been through all the medium, and he's been involved in a couple of my favorite animation and live action shows. So, without further delay, Richard Newman.
Hi, Donald. Good to be with you.
Thank you, and thank you for accepting the interview. I know it's not easy communicating through Facebook, and it. I usually I don't have like a premium access to the internet movie database, so I don't have I can't contact your agency or stuff like that. So, but thank you for accepting.
It is my absolute pleasure. I love communicating with the folks who like what I happen to do for a living.
Yeah, and like it
It's
a
like
lot. I
the like
mean, animation is very
like the
very
song
important to
says,
me. So
if there ain't no audience, there ain't no show. So
exactly, and
appreciate
that's
you
kind of
guys.
why I want to do stuff related to the voice acting business. Without being a voice actor myself, it just we spend so much time with you guys without realizing it.
Right.
From the first step we take to now, I'm sure you're still involved in stuff. Well, recently you were involved in a show that I much enjoy. You did a part in Supernatural,
Ah,
where you
yes, yes, that was a lot of
where
fun.
yeah, so that's it's fun because I'm guessing because it was shot in Vancouver. There was also Gary Chalk involved in that, Venus Terzo, a lot of Beast War cast. So that's always
A
interesting.
lot of the same folks keep appearing in a lot of the same shows. Yes, that's true. That's quite
Yeah.
true.
Have you and since it's Vancouver, have you ever been in what's that Stargate SG-1? Because I know Gary Chalk was on
And
that.
never did an episode of Stargate. My
Okay.
my ex partner did an episode of it though once, in which a bunch of styrofoam fell on her and supposedly killed her and her husband.
No.
They were the parents of one of the leads in the show, and I remember when our kids saw the episode, she really freaked out because they weren't prepared to watch their mother dying, even fake.
That
So
must be
yes,
some a
that's.
new experience.
Hmm.
All right, I'm just gonna greet the chat as it is customary. So we have my lovely girlfriend who doesn't like attention, but she's always there to support me, so that's always fun. And we have
Hi, Catherine.
Fishy 228. We have Princeton. Hey Princeton, missed you in the chat. How you doing? And Elites, and who thinks this is amazing. So all
Excellent.
these people, and I during the interview, I usually don't get that many people, but I do get a lot of repeat views because
Afterwards,
people
sure, of
will
course.
at different time they're gonna look for who did the voice of this, who did the voice of that. So, and speaking of
Mhm, mhm.
voices, how did you get started? That's kind of my get into it question.
Well, basically, I've just been an actor for my entire life. I was one of those kids who wrote plays with his grade school pals and put them on for family and friends and classrooms and stuff. So I've just been acting since I was 5 years old. Um, I was in Miami doing a play in 1986, and one of the folks I was working with was also working in a recording studio and invited me to come down and do some dubbing for this studio in North Miami. And that's where I actually got started, long before time codes and beeps and all kinds of the things that make it so much easier to do now. In those days, you just had to wait for someone to open their mouth, and then you opened your mouth, and hope that you closed your mouth around the same time they closed theirs. It was an interesting introduction to the field, and certainly helped in terms of now that things are easier. It's a piece of cake, basically. Yeah.
So dubbing is a different skill set than voice acting. So let's say Beast Wars, where you didn't have the animation, beforehand, so you voice. So what's
Hmm.
the different process for voice acting and dubbing?
Well, when you're basically the first person to do this, when you record the voices before they do the animation, of course, there's an amazing freedom to that. You can basically interpret the line, any line that you have, however you want to. You can take pauses. You can uh, change your dynamic, and then they're going to draw to what you've done. When you have to dub, you basically have to copy what's already been done. So it's like, as I say, you open your mouth when they open their mouth and close their mouth when they close theirs. Sometimes you try to do a bit of acting and you can't. because basically there's only so much time in the given line.
Hmm.
So it's dubbing is actually more difficult.
Okay.
And to be perfectly honest, it doesn't pay as well.
Oh, really? I thought it
um,
was going to be something similar as to wages.
no, it's actually about it's quite a bit different. In fact, the prelay, when we record the voices first, we make a great deal more money than when we're dubbing somebody in.
Okay.
But it's all grist for the mill, as it were.
And you were talking about emotion and mindset when dubbing. You have to, like, do they make you watch the original first so that you can get a feel of what's going on?
Yeah, basically, yeah, they'll run you through the scene that you're about to do, and you watch it. But it's really prescribed because you can only, as I say, you can't stretch a line out or you can't shorten a line. You've got to be right on where that mouth is opening on screen, so you don't have quite as much freedom. It's basically you're studying what the face on screen is doing as opposed to actually kind of interpreting the line for yourself. You can do a bit of acting, but it's just not as freeing as it is when you are able to do the lines before they do the drawing.
Okay, so when you've dubbed for Dragon Ball Z, which is one of my
Hmm.
favorite show, the you did Oolong and Captain Ginyu and a couple other characters. So
Right?
that's all
Yes.
dubbing. So you have to match. But I mean, I feel like you guys are still able to do a great job because it doesn't feel any different to us watching Beast Wars or watching Dragon Ball Z. We still get that you guys did the same job.
Well, I'm really glad because, as I say, it's a lot harder to work in dubbing. And yes, if it works, then that's quite a feather in one's cap. That feels really good to know that they're basic. It doesn't seem to be a difference between when we do the voices first and when we do the voices after. Because yeah, I mean, we're going to try to do our best every time out, and we're going to create a character that we then have to be consistent through the entire show. So
Yeah. So when you did Dragon Ball Z, you were with the Ocean Group, I believe.
that's correct. Yes, that
Okay,
was done at
so
Ocean.
there was a lot of Beast Wars cast in that show, and then after that, I think Ian James Corlett stopped doing Goku, and I think things went downhill from there, and then they switched recording studios. So
No, that I'm not sure about. The
okay,
thing about dubbing too is that when I'm dubbing, I'm the only person in the room, and I
yes,
haven't really seen the entire script. All I've seen are basically the scenes that I'm in. So I don't run into, like, when we're doing the Beast Wars, there's a dozen of us around microphones in a single room, and we're working off each other. We're talking to each other. But when I'm working, doing Dragon Ball Z, for instance, I'm in the room all by myself. I don't know who I'm working with, quite
okay.
honestly.
So that
Quite,
must
and
be yeah.
sometimes, like, if I'm the first person in, I'm doing English and I'm just responding to the Japanese or the German or whatever it is that the language of the first language that the show is recorded in.
Hmm.
So in terms of yeah, when yes, I really don't know about Ian dropping out of Dragon Ball Z or whatever it was and being replaced. It wasn't that had nothing to do with me.
No, 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 but I don't know because of the fact that you guys were all working for the same agency. You did dubbing. I figured there was going to be words around or stuff happening. But
Yeah,
no,
no,
it's
I didn't really hear much about anything around that. Actually, I didn't even know that Dragon Ball Z had switched studios
yeah.
because
Well,
whenever I
because
record
it
them,
went. It's still going on right now. They are doing new seasons, new characters. But now,
that's not up here though. That must be.
Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. But it's been. I think you guys did maybe the five first season, and after that, it switched to another
Well,
company.
they're in another town actually. They're not even here.
Yeah, and then I'm guessing you are part of the union, right, of
Yes.
SAG-AFTRA,
Yep.
and so how do you feel about non-unionized show? Because I know that's getting unfortunately more and more popular.
Uh, yeah. The thing is, like, you don't join the union right away. There has to be non-union work, and that's how people get trained, basically. And then
Oh,
once you've done some enough of that kind of work to get yourself a bit of reputation and a bit of a resume, then you would join the union and start working on union shows. Um, uh, it's part of the process. It's like there are theaters that are non-union theaters, community theaters, that sort of thing, and people will get started doing that sort of work and then move into the profession if that is indeed what they choose to do. But it's a good starting ground. It's a good place to begin. There's a lot of stuff going on, of course, online.
Yes.
Voice work that one can get, and it basically it doesn't pay very well, but it gets you in the door, and that's one of the hardest things about this business is getting in the door.
See, that's a very fresh new point for me that you bring, because the perspective, like for the latest, not the latest, but there was a show on Netflix called War for Cybertron, and basically they brought back the Beast Wars characters, and all the voices, none of the voices for the G1 or the Beast Wars character
You know,
went to unionized actor. It was all pretty much, non-union, and I have to say the voice acting was terrible. That's why I started this channel promoting what good voice acting was, because
right.
they didn't hire an actor for Optimus Prime. He was actually an impressionist, so he did an impression of Peter Cullen, and he couldn't act. And
This is the
even
problem.
Rhinox was in that show. He was still a very smart character, but it was just there was something off with characters. A couple actors did save some of the key scenes, like the actress who did Elita One and stuff like that. So there was some good ones, but for the most part, the pacing. But that's more of a direction uh, problem where the
This
pacing
is a
was,
problem when
yeah,
it's like, yeah, non-union work is great for beginners.
yeah,
Once you get into the situation where we were all kind of a little upset with the movie and with this television show that nobody decided to come to the
yeah,
original actors. Uh, but the problem is that the movie studios and the production companies, they're no longer owned by artists. They're not run by people who love movies. They're run by people who own Coca-Cola.
right,
So a lot of the stuff that they're doing is formulaic. It's like all the Marvel movies that are every movie is pretty much the same movie over and over and over again, because every Coca-Cola you drink is pretty much the same Coca-Cola you drink over and over and over again. That's how the people who own the studios are treating the public these days. So as a result, we don't get the respect that we deserve, and
true.
we get replaced really. Oh, well, I'm not going to pay for that. I can get somebody else to do that. So I don't take it too seriously. I try not to take any offense. These people just don't know what they're doing. So, of course, they do it poorly.
Exactly, and that's a corporate, thinking, rather, companies being run by accountants. But that's actually good. My favorite question that I ask every actor is in relation to that. You guys built the business. You were part of the animation boom in Vancouver. There was, people from the generation of Mel Blanc, and after that, in '84 with Frank Welker and Peter Cullen and Dan Gilvezan and Michael Bell. All these people built and built on the voice acting business. Then we get Beast War, which is a fantastic story, fantastic voice acting, outdated animation, but still very nostalgic. So you guys build this business, and then all of a sudden, studios start using celebrity voice actor. So instead of getting you, I'm getting Dwayne the Rock Johnson to voice whatever, and he just sounds like the Rock. So, what's your opinion on that?
Well, they're doing that because they think that Dwayne the Rock Johnson is going to sell more tickets than Richard Newman, and they might be right. But the fact
Yeah,
is that once they go see that and it's not very good, then people don't go. So they actually are going to lose money in the long run by producing something that nobody's going to want to go see. That's their
exactly.
choice.
Just like the Smurf movie, they recasted everybody, and then Michael Bell, who was actually he read for it, but then he sounded a little too old, so they replaced him with Joe something Malangio or whatever, and he just used his own voice, and it didn't fit the character, and that movie was a complete flop. So, all
Well,
right. So
that's
at
what
this time,
happens is that
go
when you
ahead.
hire Mel Gibson or when you hire whoever, they're going to do their voice because that's the voice. You're not going to see their face. So in
All right.
order to know that the guy's even really in the film, he's got to use his own voice. But if that voice doesn't match the character, then you've got this disconnect.
Exactly.
And it is a problem. And again, it's like you say, it's that corporate mindset that doesn't really understand the industry and doesn't
Yeah, exactly.
understand the fandom and doesn't respect the fandom when all is said and done.
There's a lot of that. I mean, the latest Transformers movie, Rise of the Beast, which we all wanted to have a Peter Cullen and Gary Chalk moment, but we got Ron
Yeah,
Perlman instead. And no disrespect to Ron Perlman because he's an actual voice actor. He's been voice
yeah.
acting in games for a long time, so I like him. I respect him. But I would have liked Gary Chalk. And then we have Rhinox in that movie who said nothing, so he's just a so far a brute. So
My
there.
understanding is that David Sobolov, who was in L.A. when that was all done and played, was it Rampage? I think in the original,
He did.
and David was kind of hired to do Rhinox. He said there were a half a dozen Rhinox lines, but they got cut.
Yeah, pretty much everything was
So
cut. So I would
I
have
don't. I
liked
mean, I haven't seen the film. Again, as I say, I just kind of felt if you guys aren't interested in even talking to us, I'm not interested in your movie. So I haven't seen it, and I probably won't bother.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. It was okay. I have to say it was one of Peter Cullen's best performances as Optimus Prime. Like he really gave it all. But
Hmm.
the rest kind of fell flat. So just gonna go check in the chat because I like to try to keep people if they have questions, but I do
Oh,
filter
sure,
out
absolutely.
questions where everything you hear at conventions all the time. Um, so let me see if I have questions there. Oh, Elite wants to know how was it? What was your experience working on Ninjago?
Oh, Ninjago is it's a lot of fun. In fact, am I supposed to say this? I just did an episode this week. Um,
Oh, cool.
so yes, it's. I mean, again, it's prelay, so there's a whole bunch of actors standing around microphones, and it's like the old days of radio.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of fun because we get to work together instead of kind of solo. So I get to react to Brian Drummond or to whoever it is that I'm working with on a given day. So no, I enjoyed the Ninjago show. I've done several characters on it, and yeah, it seems to have a license to keep going. So we'll see what
It's a
happens.
very good. It's a good show, and it's a good toy line too. So it
Yep,
sells. And then
absolutely
my dad is here.
fascinating.
Probably my dad probably saw you in old shows back in the days, and yeah. So thanks, Dad, for showing up. Piece work. What do we have? We'll have to. Yeah, I would have. We would have all wanted to have the original Beast War cast in the new movie. All right, so I think that's it
I was
for
a bit
questions.
surprised. I was a bit surprised, although I suppose I shouldn't have been. That's the industry.
Yeah, well, the same thing happened with the G1 cast. I mean, Peter Cullen got rehired. Frank Welker, who probably is one of the most working voice actor of his generation. I did a spotlight on him, similar to what I did with you, but it was 2 videos because he did
Oh
so
wow.
much, and he only got to play Megatron in the fourth and fifth movie. So and then it's different era, and I respect what the movies did to keep the franchise alive, but
Right.
they're not my favorite. I want to know a little more about you were talking when you were a kid. You and your friends used to write plays and perform for friends and
Yeah.
families. And how was your family support? Was it supportive, or was it you were kind of a black sheep?
Well, I think both things were in effect. Certainly, when I was younger, they thought that it was really kind of sweet and cute and precocious and all that. Um, I don't think my parents were all that crazy about my going into the theater. They didn't feel it was a very safe endeavor. My three siblings, I have I should say, an older brother. I have a younger brother and sister. They were all athletes, and I would strike out in softball. It was just so I was definitely the artist of the family, and not. I wouldn't say that I was not understood, but it was yeah. They just kind of didn't get me in some ways. But I think once I achieved a certain amount of success, then it was kind of acceptable. But yeah, they were quite concerned that I was going into a field where they weren't all that sure that I had much of a chance. So
Okay. Was there a
it
family
was it was
business that they were hoping you would follow, or?
Nope, no. My dad was a milkman. My mom was a housewife, and that was, that was pretty much it. They were basically hoping that I'd be a teacher or a doctor.
Ah, okay, yeah, my dad also wanted me to be a
Yeah,
lawyer or a
I mean
doctor.
that's it. There it
Yeah.
is. There it is. It's. I think all of our parents want us to do something that makes us a lot of money, and that was never the my prime motivating factor. I just loved psychology. I loved the idea of investigating the mindset of a person other than myself. I've played I've played Billy the Kid. I've played Jesus Christ. I've played Roy Cohn. I've played Otto Frank. I've played all these different characters on stage, and I just find the psychology fascinating. I just it excites me to kind of investigate the mind of someone other than myself.
Okay, and when it comes to theater, the character is already determined, right? Like the play's written, so you have to. What's your flexibility in theater to add to the character that's already been put on paper?
Well, I mean, all that's on paper are the words. I mean, who the guy is, how he speaks, how quickly, how slowly, how seriously, that all winds up being on the actor. And of course, any given play can be produced in any number of ways. Um, what you see in Shakespeare a lot these days is they do modern dress Shakespeare, or they'll take Shakespeare out of the 15th century and costume it in the 17th century. You can kind of play with things like that. As long as you're still telling the story the playwright once told. What aggravates me sometimes is some of these folks who think they have a new idea. They have a new idea, and they're going to
Okay.
do. They're going to rewrite Shakespeare in order to make their point of view across. And I think, well, no, that's not what you do. Respect for authors. Tell the story the author wanted told. As long as you tell the story the author wanted told, I don't care what century it's in. It can be in the future, it can be in the past, it can be in the present. But tell the story the author wants told. Don't tell your own story or write your own play, you know?
Okay, so that wouldn't be frowned upon if let's say, I take Macbeth and set it in the 25th century with, you
Yep.
know, a space setting. People would, fans or, people that go to theaters or actors would not go, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. They would actually say, all right, as long as the story is true, then we're good.
That's it, exactly.
That's
But as I
interesting.
say, what I resent is there's going to be somebody. Okay, so I've been in Shakespeare. I've been in 5 productions of Hamlet, for the sake of argument. So I'm getting tired of Hamlet, and I'm going to do it in a really bizarre way. Except there's a few people out there who have never seen the show before. And for those audience members to do a play in a way that doesn't tell the story of the play, that's a ripoff. They're not getting what they paid for. So
Okay.
that's my big problem with over conceiving Shakespeare or any other playwright for that matter. Is you have to tell the story that the playwright wanted told. You have to
Yeah. Yeah.
respect.
So that's something that's very important to me when a show is gonna have a fresh take on a franchise. As long as they respect the source material, I'm good with it.
Exactly.
But
Exactly what
I
I'm
have
saying.
a hard time when they don't respect it. It's just, to me, like, I'm gonna take, for example, the original Dungeons and Dragon movie with well, I can't even remember the actors because it was a terrible movie. Most of the stuff that they did not respect the source material or reference, actual places and settings of the Dungeons and Dragon world. But the new one with Chris Pine, well, at first I didn't want to see it because of my previous experience with the original.
Right.
But this one, they had everything perfectly set, the places, the names, and everything, and it was, quite an enjoyable experience. So I understand your point on that. uh
Yep.
Growing up, you went to high school. Did you do school theater, school
Oh
plays, all
yes.
that
Yep.
stuff?
Yep. I did at least a dozen plays while I was in high school. We used to do we'd have a fall show, a winter show, and a spring show, and then there was the every year we had the Christmas pageant, of course. So I
Okay.
basically did 4 shows a year for the entire time I was in high school, and then
Okay.
went to
Wow.
university, and I majored in theater in university, and then went to theater school in San Francisco at the American Conservatory Theater. Then from there to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for a season, and then I came up to Vancouver to do a children's theater tour, and I just never got around to leaving.
Yeah, it's a
I've
great,
been
great place from what I hear. I'm all the way on the other side. I'm in Gatineau, Quebec, near Ottawa.
ah, yeah, really beautiful country.
Yeah, it's we do have a good looking country. Um,
Indeed. Harsh
did,
winters.
yeah, I'm not looking forward to this one. No, not at all. But yeah,
I was there in I was in Montreal doing a play when the big ice storm happened back in 2000, 2001, whenever that was.
yes.
That great big ice storm that shut the city down for a week.
Oh, it shut the whole province down. Um,
Yes, well, yeah, yeah. The island was totally cut off. All the freeways were, the bridges were all shut down. The airports were shut down. It was quite freaky.
yeah, it
But
was. I remember
I
some
do
people.
love Montreal.
See, I don't love Montreal because when I drive there, I almost either kill people or drive and almost get killed because the
No,
it's
it's true. The traffic there is crazy.
oh
You're
it's
absolutely
I
right.
followed my cousin once and she almost had me killed. She was used to it cutting people off, and I'm like, nope, not for me. Um,
Well, I learned to drive in Chicago, see, so to me,
oh,
it's all it's the same thing.
okay. And did you have any early inspiration when you were a kid? Like, as you said, you started young doing plays for friends and families. So did you go to theater and fell in love with the idea, or was it
That's a
on
really
TV?
interesting.
Or
Yeah, I that's a really interesting question. I'd have to think about that. I The first play that I remember seeing, my grandmother took me downtown in Chicago to see The Music Man, the play The Music Man, which was a big musical hit back in the mid 50s.
Mhm.
And whether it was that or maybe it was, I don't think it was the television, because it was like the theater was the thing that got me going. I'm not really sure how I fell in love with theater. That's a really interesting question, and I haven't really thought about it. But yeah, the first plays that I ever saw, my grandmother took me to. This
Okay.
great big Ukrainian peasant woman, God bless her.
So
And
you're
she was telling
Ukrainian from your maternal side.
my mother's parents were from Odessa, and
Okay.
my father's parents were from Lithuania. So
Okay.
I used to call myself full-blooded Russian satellite, but
Okay.
now I'm Ukrainian Lithuanian. Yes.
Okay, good. And did you have any mentors, like in school, people that encouraged you to, go that course, or you always knew you wanted to go and you took the steps to go into theater? Or was there a teacher or maybe a fellow actor that said, "Hey, you should really try this"?
Well, there were a couple of my high school teachers. Were I had two theater profs in high school, both of whom were very interesting, very different ways. One of them was really a very straight ahead standard. This is how the theater is done, all the rules and all the regs. And the other guy had kind of come up through the lens of experimental theater, so he had more of an open mind and wackier ideas. So I think the two of them certainly propelled me in the right direction. But I always knew what I wanted to do. I just
Okay.
always wanted to be an actor. And as I say, I'm not even sure where that came from. But it's just always been the thing that I've loved doing, and have been doing it for over 50 years, and I still love doing it. Can't wait for my next opportunity. So,
Yeah, but that's one thing with actors. Most of like what I find with voice actors or theater actors is that you guys don't really retire. You just keep doing it until you can't.
well, that's it. One foot in front of the other till the feet don't work. If I was a hockey player, I'd been retired for 40 years already. But
You're not.
luckily, I can still walk and talk and learn lines. So yeah, as long as I can do that, I'm employable.
Yeah, and you've been through pretty much every medium. What I could find online when I did my spotlight, you did theater, TV, movies, animation. Did you ever do radio?
I've done a little bit of radio, mostly commercials on radio. Although I
Yeah.
did some radio in college, but I've never done any uh, have never had a disc jockey show or anything like that on radio. But
Okay.
yeah,
And what?
I've enjoyed it's. The most that I've done on radio is radio plays. We used to do a lot of radio plays in Canada. The CBC used to
Yes.
produce a lot of radio plays, but It's been a while since that's been going on. So yeah, not
And
a lot, not a whole bunch.
radio plays, it's that's something that's kind of interesting. Like you guys are just, it's like an ensemble cast. You're all in the same
Yeah,
room and you're reading the play and you're feeding off each other.
exactly. Yes. In
And
the
is it
same way that we do, I mean, it's very, very similar to the recording a cartoon session. Just a bunch of actors standing around microphones with a script in front of them, working off each other. Oh, that didn't work. Try it again. Another take, another take. The neat thing about radio is that you've got this guy over in the corner doing all the sound effects. There's a sandbox, and he's putting shoes in the sandbox to kind of simulate people walking or doors slamming or whatever. Some of the sound effect guys are just amazing. The things they
okay?
can
But
come up with.
it's pre-recorded.
Yes,
The
although
okay,
one time in Calgary, there was a contest. There's a statue downtown Calgary of these two businessmen, the bronze statue, and they kind of these two businessmen who were kind of standing there talking. And the contest was write a play about what these two guys are talking about. So the person who won the contest got their play read live to air on a morning in Calgary. And I
okay.
remember this so clearly because basically we're reading it live. We can't stop. We can't say, "Oh, messed up, got to go back." And the actor that I was working with lost his place. And suddenly we're improvising
Mm,
live to air and trying to get back. And I could just feel the control room going, kind of rising off the
oh,
ground.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we
That's
we we worked it out as actors do. It's always on us, right? If there's a mistake, we have to straighten it out. There's nobody else but us there.
yeah,
So yeah,
especially
we
live. But did you guys
oh, that
rehearse
was
or
we read through it once before we did
okay?
it. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was, and I guess I mean, that's the thing is what you have to say. You know what the next plot element is, so you just figure out a way to get there until you can pick yourself up again, pick up the script again.
Okay.
But yeah, that
And
was quite interesting.
yeah, I have a question from Chris here. I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit because he's from across the sea. But how did you like working, being directed as Omega Red in the X-Men franchise? Was it because he's more of a villain character, and I've seen you play a
Yes.
couple villains, couple good guys. But do you prefer villains or do you prefer good guys?
Well, the villains are so much fun. I
Okay.
mean, they're like Captain Ginyu or M. Bison,
Yes, and
Phaeton from Exo Squad or Pyron from Firestalkers. I mean, they're funny, and they're evil and funny at the same time, and that's a real gas. I had a lot of fun doing those characters.
so same thing when
But
you
as I
did.
say,
Go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. What were you going to say?
The same thing when you played Evil Rhinox. When
Oh yes, in
that
in
was a
Beast Machines,
fantastic
exactly.
episode.
I loved that, and I know a lot of the fans really that gets mentioned at conventions a lot. That fans were really upset that Rhinox, who they believed in and trusted, went to the dark side. And I just thought, well, as an acting exercise, it was fabulous. It was just so much fun to take this character who we thought of as this and turn him into that. That to me is awfully exciting.
And most of your castmate did not like the transition from Beast War to Beast Machine because they felt that their character changed too much.
Mm,
But you really went completely, off the grid for 2 seasons, and then after that they brought you in when it was a big reveal that Tankor was Rhinox,
was
which was
Rhinox, yes.
unexpected. And what was your reaction to that? Like, was it fun, or were you like you wished you had kept working a little more as Rhinox?
Oh, well, I mean, the fact is that, yes, I wasn't in most of that season.
Hmm.
Came back for the last few episodes, and so that was the disappointment from a financial pocketbook place.
Yeah.
But as I say, the actual the character was awfully fun to play. I just only got to play him in a few episodes. That's all. So
Oh yeah, that's right.
that's
He
the way it
wasn't.
goes.
Yeah, it was, to me, that was a shock. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Beast Machine, but I did watch it once at the time when
Hmm.
it came out. And when I saw Rhinox having, agreeing with the logic of Megatron, I'm like, oh my god, he lost a nut. That was such a different take on it. Elite Review wants to know if you enjoyed playing General Cryptor in
Oh,
Ninjago.
yes, he was a lot. Again, another really fun out there villain. Quite mad. But yeah, I just really enjoy playing the bad guys. I am such a sweetheart, you see, and I get to get all my bad stuff out when I get to play the bad guys.
Yeah, it's therapeutic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And you played in my favorite show, like, well, my at the time favorite show. Supernatural meant a lot to me. It got me through some rough
Right.
time when it started. It kept me interested, kept me going. And then I used to buy the DVDs while my friend were all saying, "Why don't you just get the free version online and stuff like that?" I'm like, "No, no, you don't understand. I love this show, and I want them to make more season than the planned 5." And I did it because they did 15. So I think that's on me.
Yeah.
So, but then you played
Well done.
in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then that got you work, right? So because you were in one of the later
And
season,
so I think it
how
was
was the
season 10, wasn't it?
experience with playing with? I can remember Jim. What's his name? Bobby, the character of Bobby Singer.
Oh, the two guys, yeah, they were very, very kind. Um, I find this a lot. Well, of course, that was a day that it was just the three of us on set, right?
Yeah.
So basically, that whole day was spent in that crazy little house, filming those scenes. They were very, very kind, very nice, very warm, and easy to work with. I loved the character. I thought Oliver was a real sweetheart. I kind of thought, well, they haven't killed him off. Maybe they'll bring him back, but they never did.
Yeah, there
But no,
was a
that was a
lot
lot of
of
fun.
guest characters on that show that
Yeah,
never came back, or sometimes they came back just to die.
and
So
well, it's I would have been fine with that. Just give me another episode and you can kill me off. I'm cool.
exactly. And do you enjoy what do you enjoy most? Voice acting, theater, or series, movies?
Oh,
Um,
I'm definitely a theater. I'm a theater actor. I love starting at the beginning and going until the end. And if you screw up, you can come back the next night and try to do it better. When you do a recording session or when you do a film, if they choose a take that you hate, it's there for all time, for
uh,
eternity. It'll show up at midnight when you can't fall asleep and you're surfing the television looking for something to keep you awake. There will be that awful scene you did in that movie from 1962.
okay, so there's haunting that can
Yes,
enter
yeah,
from
there is.
TV.
No, but I've always loved the theater. I think I love literature, and the theater is where the real literature is. Movies and television, they're visual, and they're mostly a director's medium, whereas theater is more of an actor's medium, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a good point. The it's a different dynamic. But
Hmm.
how is it to TV? You do it once, and then after that, you move on to the next scene if you have a recurring role. But like sometimes you can do like what 20, 30, 100 times the same play.
It is hurry up and wait, and yes, you do. Uh, so basically, they set the camera up. They do a long shot, which covers the entire scene. Then they do a medium shot. They'll do a close up on you. They'll do a close up on your scene partner. And every time you're lighting it differently and you're rehearsing it differently, and you can take a whole day to do three-quarters of a page. So it is kind of it's time consuming, and I find it sometimes maybe a little boring, doing the same thing over and over and over again like that. Because you're
Okay.
not rehearsing so much as you're just doing it for camera or doing it for lights. You're
Ah,
not really
okay.
you're not necessarily working the scene. As an actor, you don't necessarily get a lot of notes from your director, but it's all about the tech. It's all about the tech.
Okay. But then in theater, you work the scene constantly. You can
You
correct
you
stuff
you're
as you go.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. So you're rehearsing a scene and you're kind of blocking it and you're figuring out how it's going to move. And because you don't have to worry about the camera angles, you don't have to, okay, now we have to move this chair over to here because now we're going to cut that part out. We're just going to film this over here. It's very disjointed. As an actor, you don't really have a sense, or at least I have never had a sense of how it all fits together.
Hmm.
Whereas with theater, yeah, it moves at a more linear pace, and so it makes a lot more sense.
Okay. And then like, what's the most repeat of a play that you've done?
I did Angels in America 201 times.
Wow. Wow. It doesn't get boring after 100.
No. I
Okay.
mean, this is part of the job is to keep it fresh.
Ah,
Part of my job is to make this seem like I have never said these words before, because otherwise it's just, yeah, it's dull. You have to have the impression as an audience member that this is the first time these words have ever been spoken.
okay.
So, but making that happen, finding new ways every night to freshen something up like that. It's that's very exciting. It's really played Roy Cohn 200 times, over 200 times, and I never got bored with him. He was a
Okay.
fascinating character.
Yeah, I should give theater a try. Honestly, it's just not something that my parents were into. Like I didn't go to the movies until I was 15, and
Wow.
because we were in a small farming community and never had the chance. I just rented the VHS with my dad, and we
Right.
used to
Yep.
watch old kung fu movies, which poorly dubbed, and you know so I never, but yeah, the more I do this YouTubing thing with I find a lot of actors like Paul Eiding, who is by far one of my favorite human being, and then
Very
he did
nice
a lot
fella.
of
Really
like,
nice guy.
yeah, you met him. Oh, he's
Oh
I
yeah. Yeah. We've done conventions together.
yeah, I did a spotlight on him. I interviewed him just before TFCon Toronto last year, so I think in June, and then he let it slip
Mhm.
that he was going to TFCon, so I went there to meet him and had a great time. And so yeah, it's just like he does a lot of theater and he's still active, and I find that so courageous, but I think it's a devotion to the art of acting that you guys have. I mean, I can't wait to retire from my job. That's I don't want to do that. But my dad is one of those that probably, if not for an operation he had where he decided to stop working. He probably would have kept working and die at his desk. So there is some of these people, but for actors, I mean, the I find it more interesting to speak with you guys, theater, voice actor, than it would be with a celebrity who just makes $40 million and thinks he's above everybody else. But you guys seem happy. We don't see you guys in tabloids, having custody problems, uh, anything like that. It's just you guys are just living and having fun and enjoying every minute of it. And that I think.
I went from Chicago. Instead of going to New York, I went to San Francisco. And from San Francisco, instead of going to Los Angeles, I came to Vancouver. So yeah, it's like fame is not necessarily the way to go. It's finding that place where you get to express yourself, express your creativity. And Vancouver has been just an amazing place for me. It's been home for over half a century. And I've worked out of Vancouver. Of course, I've worked all the way all across the country.
Mhm.
But no, I'm very happy here for sure.
And you have a good when I because I listened to a lot of panels that you did recently. You went to TFCon for in Orlando.
In Orlando, I just got back. Yeah, well, that
Yeah,
was just beginning of the month, right? Or the end of last month, I should say. Yes,
exactly.
end
And
of end of
the
October.
you speak a lot about, or a couple times I hear you mention that in order to be able to act, you have to take care of the whole instrument, meaning
Yes,
the human body.
that is
Because
exactly right.
I think you take more than just care of your voice, but you do make sure that everything is working. So, is it a constant eating or LT stuff like that? That's just something that you always do, and it's
It's
natural now.
basically every day I do exercises. I go for a walk. Every other day I go to the gym. I watch my diet. I try to get enough sleep because this is my toolbox. This
Right.
is it. If there's something wrong here, if I can't talk or if I can't walk, I don't make money. I can't make a living. So you're quite right, is that one of the biggest things that we have to do as performers is to keep this machine working properly. So yeah, we take very good care of ourselves. Well, we should be taking. I try to take good care of myself anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, it's. Have you ever had a scare, like a serious voice scare that you said, "Oh my God, did this could amputate my career"?
I had to have a surgery to have a node removed from my vocal cord at one point, and that was very scary. I sung a lot of rock and roll and managed to thrash my voice so that everything I did was sounding kind of like this.
Okay.
So I had to have this thing cut out of my throat. And that, because of what happened to Julie Andrews, I was kind of going.
Mm,
I even said to the throat surgeon, "Don't you Julie Andrews me?" And he kind of went, "Oh."
no, no pressure. No
Yeah,
pressure.
yeah.
All right,
But
I'll
no,
pick.
it all worked out. That was 20 years ago, so it all
Okay.
worked out just fine.
Okay, because that to me that would be
Scariest
it's
thing
like
possible. The
yeah,
scariest thing
exactly.
you
It's
could
just
imagine.
some people have had good like Michael J. Fox, who had amazing career, amazing actor, and then he gets the Parkinson disease,
Parkinson's.
and
Yeah, which is just such a
it's
shame.
exactly so. All right, I'll check if we have anything from chat. You feel you had different work experience going from voice from Transformers to voice. Well, we talked about that earlier. Ultimate
Yeah,
Gutonist.
and I mean, every gig is a bit different. Every character is a bit different. You don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again. So yeah, basically, it you try to give yourself a new challenge every time you have a new character. So,
Right. Okay. Uh, what was your
oh
favorite play
boy,
you did?
that's 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 a tough one. That's like apples and oranges, because they're all so different. I love doing Angels in America. That was a fascinating experience. That's the one I did 201 times. But I love doing Diary of Anne Frank, and I loved the last couple of things I've done. I just was in a production of Midsummer Night's Dream last summer. That was a lot of fun to do. I played Shylock in a wonderful production of Merchant of Venice a dozen years
Okay.
ago. So I mean, it's tough. I don't know that I could pick my very favorite theater piece I've ever done. I've just enjoyed so many of them.
Yeah.
I should say that I have not enjoyed so few. I'm almost always enjoy the work that I do in the theater.
Okay. And Chris wants to know. Well, actually, do you have any Sue Blue? I'm gonna go with just one, like a good Sue Blue story, because she's
Sue,
one that I want to interview, but I've not been able to contact. So
she's an amazement. I adore Sue. She's one of the best directors I've ever worked with, and is just a real sweetheart. Just one of the kindest people in the world. You just want to do everything you can to make her happy. So no, I really enjoyed working with Sue very, very much. She's a real sweetheart.
okay, and the Gary Chalk also I've interviewed him last November, I think. Uh, and
Hey,
you guys have like
Gary.
yeah. And I saw the panel that you did with him not long ago, and then when they were talking with, like asking how do you get into voice acting, and he goes into that 10-minute rant on how he got into the business, and but he also found a lot of success. But I always find
He's
him
done
like,
very, very well. He's done
oh
very
yeah,
well. I mean, it's like we wouldn't have won the Second World War without John Wayne, and I don't think any police department in Canada could have existed without Gary Chalk. So there you are.
that is so true. That's one thing you mentioned that he played so many military
So many
people.
cops,
And,
so
yeah,
many cops and
exactly.
military guys, and yeah, yeah. He just
Yeah.
looks like General what's his name.
Well,
That's
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 when my dad saw him on my interview, and he's like, "Oh, he played that cop on that show." Like that was the first thing. So yeah, I
he's a
I
great
knew
guy.
him
He's a
from
really good man.
Stargate SG-1 as a general again. So
Right, yeah. No, Gary and I met, must be close to half a century ago, actually.
have you
So
ever
he's a
worked
good man.
with
He's a good man.
somebody that you've been starstruck? Like you had the chance to play with somebody that you watch on screen or on stage, and then you got the chance to play with him, her.
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times. There was a show called Jack's Place a bunch of years ago that featured an actor named Hal Linden, who was quite famous for a cop show, a situation comedy called Barney Miller back in the day. And getting to work with Hal Linden was a treat. Getting to work with David Duchovny was a treat. He was a
Really?
real gentleman. Yeah, a real
Okay.
gentleman. I was quite surprised by how giving and willing he was when we did this scene together. He was quite charming. But yeah, I mean, most guys. I don't think I've ever run into anybody. Well, no, I can think of one or two that were maybe not as nice as they might have been. But for the most part, we all want to get along with each other because we need each other to do the good work. So if I piss you off by attitude or something, you're not going to want to work with me. It's not going to happen,
Yeah.
and the show's not going to go anywhere. So I think most people are just trying to get along.
Exactly. But I think you guys, like, Princeton mentioned that you guys are more down to earth than movie actors. But I think you really appreciate the fans more than big celebrities. I mean, maybe because it's more niche, or that there's people know you for you and not just the big movie you did this week, or
Well, I it's neat because the conventions kind of humanize us,
right.
and they all put us into contact with you guys so that we know who we're actually working for. And it creates a sort of a symbiosis, a friendship sort of, aside from just the kind of audience actor kind of relationship. So no, I think it's quite true. We really appreciate the fans because, as I say, without them, we don't have a career. So
Exactly. Well,
uh,
yeah, in a sense, yes, there's that, and it's. But do you find it hard? Like, I'll give you an example. I interviewed David Kay in August, and he said that he went to TFCon Toronto. That's where I met him, and he said that this convention was particularly hard because, like, emotional hard, because there was a couple people. One was from, I I think, Ukraine, and he spent all his time and
mm,
money to go to Toronto to meet him. And then he had a Special Olympic weightlifting champion that kept calling him his hero over and over again. And I think it was a Make a Wish trip or something like that. So he said, "You meet these people, he said, I'm just David from Peterborough, but these people are calling me the hero." He said, "I find it's hard emotionally. It gets very emotional." Do you find
I've
a
I've
similar
never
thing?
I've never been very comfortable with celebrity. I don't consider myself a celebrity. I'm just a workaday actor.
Okay.
I understand what David means, though. Um, I had a guy come up to me in England when I was there for a convention, and he said, "So Rhinox was my favorite character, and Rhinox was a science engineer. So I went into sciences, and now I'm an engineer." And because of me, I
Yeah.
just think that's wild. That's torrid. I The other thing that really, my younger brother was part of the 1950s polio epidemic, right? So he lives in a wheelchair.
Oh, okay.
The first convention I went to, the number of people who showed up in wheelchairs with physical or emotional or mental issues. And I realized that what we were doing was creating a dream, that we were fulfilling a desire
Yeah,
for
you were
people who were
fulfilling
not
a dream more than creating it. Yes.
that. Yes, exactly. And that, I think, just really shook me to realize that no, it wasn't just a cartoon. We're actually helping people get through rough lives. And yeah, that means a lot to me. That means a
Yeah.
great deal to me.
Supernatural did that for me. It really helped me get through a rough period of my life. And then Transformer is my midlife crisis. I told my wife it's either I get a younger you or I get toys, and she said she hates that joke, but she said get toys. But it's just if it wasn't for the quality of the work, both from you guys and from the G1 actors, like if it wasn't for Wally Burr, I don't know if you had the chance to work with Wally Burr, who was the
I did on several projects. Yeah.
Okay, good. And I don't think if it wasn't for him pushing the actors as much as he did back in '84, and the actors willingly giving as much as they could to create
Hmm.
Transformers and GI Joes, because to me those are the two franchise that you still hear about the most. today. Or so Masters of the Universe, He-Man and all that stuff. And then when Beast Wars came along, saved the franchise from extinction with a new direction with the Beast characters instead of cars and planes and trucks.
Right.
And
Yes.
although
Yes.
it met with backlash at the beginning, and then eventually we realized, oh no, man, this show's good, and there's ties to G1. So I think it's very, it's because of you guys' dedication that we're still here talking about this 30, 40 years ago. Like next year
I
is the
know
40th
that's
anniversary of Transformers.
and well, 27 years since we did the first episodes of Beast Wars,
Yeah.
and that's as old as my kid, and
Oh,
it's like
okay.
and we still care. That's amazing to me. That's quite amazing.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, this has been a great deal of fun.
oh yeah, well, thank you. And before we go, do you have anything you want to plug? Any show that your NDA is over that you can say are coming, or anything you want people in Vancouver know a play you're doing, or
Actually, no. And at the time, for the moment, I'm looking forward to doing a show called Parade in the spring. It's a
okay,
musical about an event that happened in Georgia in 1913. A musical about a lynching. It's a very strange topic for a musical, but a very
yeah,
interesting play. It's actually running on Broadway right now with a young man named Ben Platt, who is kind of
okay,
the hot young thing. So that's coming up in the spring, and then who knows? I'm ready, willing, and able. So we'll just see what else happens next.
okay. Well, I wish you luck on any further project that you have. Don't close your window yet. A couple actors do that. I say goodbye and then they close the window. Just wait until the broadcast is over, so that I can just give you proper goodbye. But thanks everyone in chat who
Absolutely.
showed up. It was a great time again. Thank you for your questions. You guys are getting better with questions. You filter out yourself the recurring dumb ones. Sorry, it happens. But thanks for everything, Mr. Newman. Again, thank you for accepting to being here.
A pleasure. It's a real pleasure, Donald. Thank you so much for asking.
Perfect. Thank you. And remember, everyone, nothing in life gives you a right to be an asshole. Take care.